So to go a little bit more in detail, the Ayurvedic understanding of the three doshas. Have all of you heard of Vata, Pitta, Kapha? Is this familiar for some of you? For some of you, it might be familiar. For some of you, it might be new. Okay, so don't worry if you don't remember all these terms. There's a lot of resources where you can learn a little bit more in detail, and we'll be sending something for the participants as well to help you understand your body type afterwards. So the three fundamental doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Okay, so these are essentially three, you can think of them as three bioenergies or three energies which exist in nature and manifest in our own body and mind. So we are born with a certain constitution, and we are born with a specific mix of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. For everybody, that will be different. It's not 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Someone can be predominantly more of a Vata type, someone could be more of a Pitta type, someone could be a mix of Vata and Kapha type. So essentially, these are the primary forces that determine your own physical and mental constitution. So these three doshas are made up of the elements, the 5 elements or the building blocks: ether, air, fire, water, and earth. So sometimes I find we think, okay, how do we relate to that? What is space? What is ether? What is air? How does that manifest in my own body? A simple example is looking at your own body. When we say there's air, something simple like crackling joints is a manifestation of air in the body. Or gas, digestive system, is a manifestation of air in the body. Fire, how does fire manifest in the body? Fire can manifest, for example, in your digestive fire, your stomach acid, which helps burn and break down things, the food that you eat. So these 5 elements are the foundation of our body, but also of our mind as well. And when there is an excess, or when there's too much or too less of one of these elements, this can lead to imbalance over time. So essentially the 5 elements that make up the doshas, the 3 doshas, as we mentioned, are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So if you see in this diagram, Vata is predominantly made up of ether, or space, and air. So this body type, to make it a little more tangible, this body type tends to be more on the thinner side. These body types tend to be fairly active. When they're out of balance, they might have more dry skin, they might feel cold, they might feel more anxious, but they can also be very creative. This is the energy of the wind or of movement. So Vata body types tend to be, like I said, thinner and cooler and more active. But in the mind, this can manifest as sensitivity, as fear, as anxiety. So when we're looking at people and we're understanding what's going on, when we understand what doshas are at play, it helps us treat better from an Ayurvedic perspective. So the next body type, or the next dosha type, is Pitta. So the red diagram here. Pitta body types, as you can see, are made up of fire and water. So this is essentially, just think when fire burns, there tends to be some combustion, right? But this is the force of transformation. Think of cooking food, right? You're transforming things with that fire. In the body, it manifests as heat. So Pitta types can be very warm-blooded. When they're out of balance, they might be more prone to anger, frustration. From a body perspective, they might have more rashes, inflammation. So some of the diseases like blood pressure or heartburn are more a manifestation of excess Pitta. Okay, and personality types, these are the doers. These are the people that have that fiery energy, have a passion for doing things. They can often drive themselves where they push themselves to their limit to get things done. And so this is the Pitta body type. The Kapha body type, this is the body type that tends to be more a larger body type. So they tend to be very stable and strong. In life situations, these are the people in families that are very stable, and they're at the core of the family. These are the people that you want to go to ask for help, or you might want to, if you have problems, these are the people that you can trust. The Kapha body types, the Kapha mind types tend to be very sturdy and stable. They tend to be very cold and more prone to gaining weight, as well as from a mental perspective, they tend to be more prone to lethargy, sluggishness, and depression. So if we look at the time of the year that we're at here in Canada in the winter, this is the season where the Kapha qualities dominate. So a lot of people, especially if they are a Kapha body type, they tend to be more prone to, wanting to sleep in, not wanting to get out of bed, finding it very hard to do exercise, lack of motivation, and ultimately leading to depression and isolation. Okay, so in a nutshell, there's a lot more we can go about these body types, but to help you understand what your body type or dosha type is, we'll be sharing a small quiz that you can do on your own at home later to understand what percentage your body type is made up of these. Okay, so let's take an example. So excess pitta, okay, so the fiery type. So someone who is more of a pitta type, on a physical aspect, might be more prone to redness, rash, inflammation, acidity, irritability. Okay, but on the mental emotional aspect, this relates more to frustration, anger, and irritability. Okay, so those heated emotions, road rage, are an example of excess pitta. Now, you might, once you identify your own type, you might also understand this. You might understand the people around you, in relationships or in your family situations, what kind of types the people are around you. And I find when you can understand this, it makes it so much easier to understand why people go off balance, right? When someone in the house is really upset about something, and you understand it's hot outside, they've been, cooped up, and when you understand the people around you, it makes it easier to work with them. Now, the other thing is imbalances accumulate as we age. So you can think of it as, as a bucket, right? There's a drop of water, right? As each drop goes into the bucket, we don't notice much, right? You don't notice what's happening. But eventually that bucket fills up, and then that bucket overflows. Now that water overflows into the tub, eventually onto the floor. Now, at some point, you're going to notice that. Same analogy happens within our own system, where imbalances accumulate until we know there's a problem, until there's a symptom, or until we notice that something is wrong. Okay, so as we age, naturally these imbalances accumulate and can lead to disease, such as dis-ease over time, right? Whether it's an actual diagnosed condition or just not feeling well. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Just moving on to the next slide here. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit more into the mental state and dosha types. It's really important to understand what's happening in the body first. It's a little more tangible to understand that reflection in the mind, because how our body is and how our minds are work very much in an interconnected way. So Vata types tend to be more worried, more fearful. They tend to be imbalanced, more spaced out. In stressful situations, these body types tend to be want to run away, that fight or flight situation. You can think of a deer just suddenly wanting to freeze and then run away. Pitta types tend to be more irritable and angry. So they tend to be more restless, more the fighter. So the fighting response. Okay, so when they're in a stressful situation, when they're presented with conflict, Pitta types will want to fight back. Okay, Vata types will want to tend to run away. Kapha types tend to be more stuck. They tend to hold on to the past. Okay, so they might be the types of people that hold grudges or hold resentment. It's very hard for these types to let go. And they also sort of freeze. So this is the deer in the headlights, where they freeze in response to stress. Okay, so I want you to just take a quick moment now and just think, when you're in a stressful situation, right? Whether you're, in a traffic jam and you're late to a meeting, or you have to get to an appointment on time, and there's a lot of time pressure, and why don't you just take a moment and think, what is your natural response in this situation? Are you the type of person that starts getting angry and wanting to shout at people and do something about it? Are you the person that wants to sort of run away and flee the situation? Or are you the person that sort of shuts down, sort of blocks off, and kind of goes into a stuck mode? Now, the reason is it's not about saying any type is better or worse. It's more about understanding how our own systems are. Because when we can understand this better, we're able to do something about it. So another foundational concept in Ayurveda, which I would love to talk more about, but because of time, we have to keep it really condensed, is the three gunas. So these are the three major forces, and you can think of them as more of a subtle force in the mind. Okay, we looked at Vata, Pitta, Kapha. These are the more obvious forces of nature, but the three gunas are more of the subtle forces which manifest in our mind. And maybe you've heard of these, but there's Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So essentially, especially with a lot of yoga and meditation, a lot of the aim is to work more towards a sattvic state. Okay, a sattvic state is balanced state. It's clarity of mind. It's knowledge. It's a very balanced state where you see things as they are. Rajas is more of the energy of movement, which can manifest as restlessness, aggression, more of the yang energy, if you're familiar in traditional Chinese medicine. This is the doing. This is the heated, the heating, like heated foods. This is the like spicy foods. This is the movement forward. Now we need this energy to make things happen, but again, anything out of balance can lead to health issues. Tamas is more related to, tamas is more of a quality of inertia, of dullness, okay? It's of stillness, of lethargy. This is more of the yin energy. So again, not to say that it's bad in that sense, you know, it's needed, but we're always working towards more of the sattva quality. Okay, and sattva is really built up through meditation. It's built through eating pranic and wholesome foods. Avoiding bad news or conflict situations or things like this. Okay, so one example I just wanted to bring up, just in related to pandemic and the current situation that we're in, when we listen to a lot of the news of what's going on, often this can increase the rajas or the tamas in our system, which can make us feel out of balance, right? If we're hearing a lot of news, we might start feeling anxious, we might start feeling sad or depressed. But essentially, we want to work more towards sattva, balance, looking at pictures of nature, for example, or being outside in nature, being around pleasant people, pleasant thoughts are all sattvic. Okay, so this is another essential foundation of Ayurveda, especially when we're looking at mental health. Okay, the last foundational concept I want to talk about is the Agni. Okay, so the Agni is the vital fire. Now, the vital fire is you think of it as your vitality, manifests as strong digestion and metabolism. But on a mental aspect, this is your ability to digest experiences, to process things that have happened. Let's say you've been in a situation where someone has said something that has been hurtful to you. How do you digest that? Right? Some people will hold on to it, will think about it for days and days, will dream about it, and still not able to let go. But if your Agni is strong, if your mental Agni is strong, you're able to look at it, to process it, and digest it, and move on. Okay, so essentially a good Agni plus balanced doshas relate to good health.